Good afternoon, everybody out there in DFS land. It's your buddy Choppadong coming at you with another Chop Talk episode. We're going to talk express and late night slates today. I'm going to throw you a twofer here as quickly as I possibly can. It's getting late. We're going to start cranking on some of the data for these slates now that the lineups are starting to pop out. If you haven't followed me before, welcome in. Follow the link in the description in the comments section of this video and become a VIP inside DFSArmy.com, your one-stop shop for everything DFS related, from World Cup coverage, as you see, you're looking at it right now, to MMA, PGA, NASCAR, MLB, NFL, strategy, articles galore. We have tools opened up for you today. It's not too late to jump in and take a look at our research station. You go to the MLB, down to the research station tab, click on it, you'll open up this bad boy, and that's where we're going to start today with a lot of our research as we roll in. I wanted to show you the lineups page just really quickly. Sometimes I'll go to Roto World, Roto Grinders, our own lineup page, whatever. Doesn't really matter. As long as you can find one, you can click down the Express slate and see the games. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games tonight. We'll look really quickly for some weather issues, and I don't really see any in the outdoor ballparks. Of course, there's never a weather issue unless you play NBA and the roof leaks in a dome. But when the wind is blowing in at Texas Ranger Stadium, a lot of times it's actually blowing out. There's a swirling pattern there. I wanted to tell people about that. I've been taught over the years. It looks like it's a little bit downplayed now with new buildings popping up in the downtown area, but you've got yourself two teams over a 5 in the over-under. Both teams are apparently the favorite, so that's a little odd duck. Minus 130 there, minus 130 there, minus 120 here, and a minus 215 there. So I think your popular choice is going to wind up being Charlie Morton tonight, but we're going to dive into the research station and take a look. I'm looking right now also for cheap guys up top in the lineup. This would indicate where some of the chalkier guys are going to be. Harrison Bader, Albert Almora. If you get a really expensive pitcher on the slate, people will gravitate towards those types of players, and it can tell you, Abdul Herrera can tell you where these guys are likely to go. And you can scan through the entire lineup and see that Detroit is very, very cheap tonight. So if you found yourself on the main slate some $12,000 pitcher like a Corey Kluber that you wanted to use, you can also tell that in a lot of cases your stacks are going to come from somewhere like that. Maybe not in cash, but in some tournaments. That is one of the ways people tend to set themselves apart and hope to hell that Detroit scores 6 or 7 runs tonight. I don't really see it happening based on team numbers, the way things have been going so far, and we'll show you a little bit of that in the research station as well. But like I said, we're focused on the 5-game express slate, and I don't really see a lot of stuff that's really popping out at me, so we're probably just going to have to build like usual and just, but that's why it's usual. We do this most of the time. We dive into the research station. The first thing I start with is the starting pitchers matchups tab, and I close out these 3 games here. I click the 805, and then I hold down the control key and click 810 and 815 when the thing starts to come forward a little bit. Sometimes you got to be a little patient with it. It's like an old car. It takes a little cranking before it really gets up and moving, and it should narrow it down to these 5 games for you. And once it narrows down to those 5 games, these are the pitchers in the starting pitchers tab. I am going to scroll over, whoops, a little too far, look at the DFSA grade, and I'm going to see if any of these guys are in the 80s and 90s with premium matchups. Doesn't look like they are tonight. Looks like they're all pretty balanced. I will take the higher guys and consider them. I'll take the lower guys and I'll stack against them. So when I scroll back over, I'm looking at the bottom of the barrel here. Milwaukee, Detroit, Colorado are going to be teams that I'm going to focus on most likely with bats, okay? And the reason why is they're facing horrible pitching. I'm going to try and find these teams and look at who is the hot bat inside there. That's the other part of my process. But the first thing I do when I'm evaluating pitchers is I scroll over a little bit, I look at the opponent bats and the pitching arms that are going on the mound, and I look at their strikeout percentage, because really and truly what MLB DFS is does the guy throw a lot of innings? Is he going to be in line to get the quality start and the win? And that's what Vegas tells us. And does he throw for a lot of strikeouts and not give up a lot of runs? If you run into that combination, that's great. But what strikeouts do for you is strikeouts erase earned runs. If I've got a guy who throws for 10 strikeouts tonight and only goes 6 innings, let's add that together. 10 plus 6 is 16. 16 times 3, 3 points for an inning, 3 points for a strikeout. 16 times 3 is 48 points. Well, a dude can give up, say, 3 runs, take 9 points away, you're still at 39 points. That's a good night. It's still a quality start. Add 4 for 43. Add 6 more for the win. You're back at your 49. So you got 49 points out of that starter. He gave up 3 runs. Everybody looks like it wasn't some phenomenal night, but it really was. It was actually really good. Why? Because the guy throws for strikeouts. If you see a contact pitcher, somebody like a Brent Suter, yeah, he may be rated really high, but he only strikes out less than 20% of his batters. No, thank you. That's telling me that if he gives up a couple of runs, he's not coming back from that tonight. He can't fight his way back from that score with strikeouts. Strikeouts are the end-all be-all when it comes to DFS pitching. I wish it wasn't that way. It just is. So when I look at the Charlie Morton up top with the 17 or the 27.7, I add that to the 8. Uh-oh, we've got ourselves a team that doesn't strike out a lot. But 27.7 and 18.1 is what? 45, 456, 458. 458 roughly. I look for a number close to 500. See, it's a 45.8% when you add those two together. But really and truly what we're looking for, I take the decimal out just because it's easier for me not to have to type in decimal points. So I called it a K-score, and that's where it comes from in my chin music articles if you follow those out on Twitter. 458's not great, not bad. But when you go comparing everybody else, yes, Brent Suter's opponent strikes out more than Charlie Morton's, but Charlie Morton strikes out a lot more batters than Brent Suter does. So really and truly, it's kind of a wash because what's this one? A 42.8, so a 428. That's a 480 or a 450, 460, and a 430. Not great. 440, 456 for John Lester. 456 and 4 whatever out of Charlie Morton is the same. Why? Because Charlie Morton doesn't strike, or Lester doesn't strike out as many people as Morton, but his team strikes out more than Morton's team does. So that's where we get these numbers. It becomes a sliding scale, and what we're looking for in that sliding scale is we're looking for a green light situation where we've got somebody like Morton going up against somebody down here that Bettis is facing. If that was the case, you'd have a 27, almost a 28 facing. You'd have a 540. A 460 here, a 540 here would be a massive green light if they were matched up together tonight. They're not. A lot of the way that the schedule shuffled out tonight and the way the aces are rolling or the way the pitchers are rolling is that it just kind of comes off a little bit balanced. So really and truly, everybody's kind of in a crapshoot. If a guy's really on his A game, fine. There are other methods to use to look for them. I don't look that much deeper than that. Our other coaches do. I rely on them sometimes to read their articles and look for their rankings, and that's great. They see stuff that I see. That's what they get paid to do. I get paid to coach you guys from becoming beginning DFS baseball players and getting you guys up and grow and rolling in a quick fashion. And really and truly, you don't need more than my method. You can go deeper if you want to really nerd out into some computers and stuff, and you think that that's going to give you a great edge. I just personally don't believe it does. So otherwise, I'd be doing it myself. For me, I'm a little lazier. I back off and say this is good enough for me, and I'm just going to let the variance of a round ball hitting a round bat do the work for me on any given night. Now, there are things that I do know from digging into all of those numbers, but I don't check them that often. I can teach them, I just don't check them that often. So what I'm looking for tonight looks like pretty much the top 3 or 4 guys. Michael Wacha's been on a roll lately. I don't know if these are 2-year numbers, which is interesting. I'd like to see 1-year numbers. That's on the research station. But you're looking at a 22 and a 29, so 429, a 430 roughly. And I think that lately he's been really good. So if I went in and actually called him up, because this is where I will, conveniently, this is where I'll get off track a little bit, and I will start diving in to these numbers. And what I'm going to end up doing is clicking on the MLB tab inside Fanduel, the Express slate, since that's what we're looking for. I'll call up any old random contest. All right, a 2-game contest, a $2 contest, whatever. All I really want to do is look at Michael Wacha really quick. And I'll look at some of the other pitchers while we're in here as well. Wacha. I'll click his name. I'll pull up his game log. And he's been 35, 58, 36, 39, I mean, it's been a while since he's been under 30 points. 6 starts. I'll look at his strikeouts. 6, 8, 3. Okay, 3's bad. 6, 8, 5, 5. See, we're a little bit lower here. He had an outlier of an 8. Now he's a little bit more common in the 6 to 8 range. So he's definitely picked up his game lately. I want to look at how many earned runs he's given up. It is not a lot. The dude has been throwing really well lately. Okay, now I'll compare him to, say, a Charlie Morton. There were a lot of over 30s in that lineup, and look, 20, 19, 52, and a 70. So Morton maybe is cooled off, but there's a 15 and there's a 6. This is what we would call more of a GPP type pitcher, to be quite honest with you. You got low starts and high starts, and you don't know what you're going to get on any given night. It kind of bounces around. If you looked at a Michael Wacha type again. We'll look at John Lester here in a second. You're getting a much more steady brand of production, a bunch of mid-30s and 40s, nothing 70, nothing way up there like that could win you a GPP, but he doesn't look like he's going to crap the sheets on you very often either. You got to go all the way back to May 1st before he had a really bad start, and even then before that he was pretty good. So this would be more of a cash game. type of pitcher, but he's really good for either format as long as his price is okay. Let's look at John Lester and see if we get some ups and downs. And Jake Junis is next. That's a crazy price. So this was a scratch start, of course, but 40s, 40 to pretty steady. There's a 22 there, but pretty steady out of Lester as well. That's not bad. Now look at Jake Junis. Uh-oh, I see one that tanked. There's a bad start. But again, 40s, lower 20s. He's a little overpriced for this type of production, to be quite honest with you. But I don't see the 6 and the 10 and the 15 that I saw out of Charlie Morton. Arrieta, if I go through his game log, this is stuff you can do. I mean, I'm looking here at the line. I want to see it around 40 points. Not going to get it the past 2 starts, obviously. So when we're looking at, blew up, really blew up. So, I mean, tournament pitcher. Got some decent starts, no upside in here. Well, there's one good start right here. And the rest were all kind of sketchy. So not the kind of guy I'm going to be rolling after, to be honest with you. So that's a little bit of what I'll do when I'm undecided on people. I'll kind of float through there. But it looks to me like Lester, Waka, look like they're a little bit steadier. We didn't look at Brent Suter. Let's find him just to see what that's about. Well, there's a pretty steady track or graph. But for 6,500, okay, I was going to say this isn't great production for somebody, but for 6,500, that's pretty good. I don't want to see these starts. 5 innings, only 2 innings, 1 run. This was probably a relief appearance of some kind. This one was definitely a start, but he started getting straight, and he's only going to go 5 innings. He's not going to get you the quality start. If he doesn't go 5 innings, like if he only goes 4.2, he's not going to get you eligible for the win. So I would be very cautious about Brent Suter. But if I do get the win out of him, 3, 4 of his last 5 starts, he got the win. That's why this point total comes up into the 30s, near 30. And for 6,500, that's great. Again, that's more of a GPP risk for me. So if I go back and look, a little inconsistent, definitely the favorite tonight. Probably a lot of people will be on him in Charlie Morton, but he's going to cost you a lot. I'd take the savings in Lester or Waka. It's probably what I'm going to wind up doing now that I've looked at it a little bit more. That's just one way to do it. Now, what did I say? Maybe some Texas, Milwaukee, Detroit, Colorado. So we'll go to the Trends tab. I'll break these down and show you these batters. So I've already got them all targeted up here. Let's run with Colorado. Let's filter out our numbers on smaller slates. We're going to keep that a little bit bigger. But you know what? Just for the hell of it, I'm going to go 340. See, I'm doing this to show you guys. I'll go a little bit lower, but it doesn't matter whether it's 335 or 340 or 320. It's whatever you want. But there's 4 bats that I will target tonight. Story, Desmond, Gonzalez, and Parra. And as a matter of fact, they're written up in chin music today. If I go over to Detroit, watch them disappear. Leonis Martin, Jose Iglesias. Those are the only 2 bats that are really worth it right now. What I will do, and we'll come back to them in a minute. Who else was on the slate? Did we say Texas? So I've got 4 bats there. Gallo, Chu, Chirinos, and Profar. Gallo, Chu, and Profar would be a neat little mini stack if you want to do it that way. Now I've got to go back to the pitching tab really quick because I can't remember the 4th team. Texas, Milwaukee. So we'll go back to the Trends tab and we'll look at Milwaukee. The other teams I'm not really all that concerned with. If you've got the time, go pick through them and find the hot bats. That's fine, but they're not facing the weaker pitching on the slate. So I want both. I want all the arrows pointing up that I can find. Milwaukee's running hot. Shaw, Yelich, Brad Miller. I swear I don't know what's going on there. I still haven't found, but I haven't run any Milwaukee bats to verify this. Braun, Kratz isn't going to start much. So I'm looking at these types of numbers here, and these would be the bats that I would run, those that are in Milwaukee's starting lineup. And what? Yelich, Shaw, Braun, those would be the ones. So I can build a lineup, maybe 1 or 2 lineups. And if you wanted to go into the Domination Station on DFSArmy.com and use that tool, you could certainly stick with most of these guys as your core that I've just pointed out to you and stack up Milwaukee and Colorado and Texas and whatever and establish the parameters in that tool. And then if it throws some Detroit bats or throws some Houston bats or throws some Cubs bats at you, let it. That's fine. They could have great games. But I'm generally going to stay a little closer to the vest with this as my core unit. I will let the domination station throw the other stuff at me because I trust our projections and I trust the sources that we're pulling our projections from, and I know that they're spotting matchup things that I'm not digging deep enough to find. So as a general idea, that's what I'm going to do tonight, and that's what I think you should be doing tonight. And if I see those names in lineups that people suggest to me and say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" or "What do you think about?" I'm going to say, "Great, do it, run it." You don't even need to ask me if they've got all those names in there. I'm going to say it's great. I don't know if the 2-3-4 stack or the 7-8-9 stack is going to be better for. I know that generally speaking, the 2-3-4 is going to be better, but I don't know what's going to happen tonight. I never do, nor do you. I know that if I run the 2-3-4 stack over the course of 2 months, it's going to outperform the 7-8-9, but I just don't know if tonight is going to be the night that the 7-8-9 goes bonkers. So I'll play them both. I'll stick to the 2-3-4s most of the time, or the 1-3-5s, or really and truly the hot bats, the Shaw, Yelich, Braun. I'll stick to that, whether it comes out 1-5-7 or 1-2-3. I don't care. That's the stack I'm most likely going to stick to when I see it in the optimizer putting the numbers out to me. And that's what I'm going to try and do. But I won't be afraid to mix in some Arcia or mix in some Shaw or something like that if the optimizer throws those in there and says, "Hey, consider this lineup. This guy's in a good spot." As long as it has most of those other names in there, I'm good to go. And I'm going to tell you the exact same thing. Let's kick over back to the starting matchups page, and let's do the 4-game slate tonight with the late night. 1, 2, 3, 4 games. Again, no weather concerns. Wind blowing out there's interesting. I know it's in Oakland. Wind blowing out in LA. I know it's in LA, but still, Paxton's on the slate. That's a good sign. He's expensive, but that's a great pitcher. And when I look around, there's nobody else really competing with him. And that Texas game is not on this slate. So there might be some cheaper bats, that you might be able to run with Paxton and form a lineup. I think that most people are going to go in that direction on this slate. That tells me if you wanted to run some Stripling, or you wanted to run some Skaggs, or maybe some Godley, I think you're going to have those guys at lower ownerships than Paxton, which means they're cheaper too. You might be able to find, especially, a Godley at 7.2. You might be able to fit in a little bit meatier stack somewhere, like the Dodgers might get 4 bats in there from them, and that might, or Boston, and then go against Paxton, which would be an interesting play because that would leverage the Paxton fade on your part and would allow you to, if the Boston Red Sox really have a good game, which we know they can, they're obviously not scheduled to, but we know they can score 5 or 6 runs anytime they want to, then that would be worth it. That would be worth taking a gamble on, perhaps. So let's jump back to the research station. What we got? 9:30, 9:40, 10, and 10. So I'm going to click on the 9:35. Then I'm going to hold once it settles in, I'm going to hit my control key and click on the 9:40 and the 10:10 and add those games to it. And I should come up here with 4 games when it loads up. And I've got 8 pitchers. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing, only we'll be faster this time. 98 on Paxton, great rating. These ratings are higher than the other two. So Stripling, Skaggs, Godley, these are all fine. Down here at the very bottom, especially the bottom 2, Holland and Bassett are your targets. So I'm going to scroll back over. I'm going to take a peek at the K-score, 29.2 and a 24.6. That's a 530, 538. That's a great K-score. This one here is a 520 for Stripling. So it's actually, now, we've got a consideration. We got a 530 and a 520, and it's almost $1,000 difference. Is that $1,000 worth it to you? Maybe it is. 24 is 460. This one here's a 450, 460. Okay, so these two are clearly above the others. Head and shoulders above the others. So they're also the most expensive. So these would be the 2 pitchers that I would probably target if I wanted to go off it a little bit down in here into Skaggs and Godley to save some money. I could make an excuse and do that. But generally speaking, I'm going away from the better pitchers on the slate by doing so. And I need to know that going up front so that I know I'm taking some risk. And then I don't put that in a head-to-head or a 50-50 type of competition. Instead, I put that more into a 20-man league or a single-entry GPP or something like that, where I will get paid off better when the risk I'm taking happens. Because it's not supposed to happen very often, because it's not an ideal spot for that particular combination, given that the slate is giving us other better options. So the other 2, the bottom 2 I said were LA and LA. Well, that's easy to remember. And then there's a little bit of Arizona and Seattle. So maybe we'll remember those. It doesn't look like Boston's going to be in a good spot. But if you wanted to, the bats are definitely there. So when I go into this, LA, Seattle, let's see, let me kick into this. Well, I'll show you a little trick here because of what's happening. I turn these guys blue, and then I'm going to kick this one off. I hold the control key, hold the control key and turn him off, and then the others should all come in. So LA looks like a Dodger night. There's some Arizona in there. There's some Seattle in there. There is a Boston bat in there. There's a little bit of Oakland in there, which is interesting. When I've still got myself filtered by 340, okay? So these are only 340 WOBAs and above for the last 7 days. These are the players list. It's how I choose them. When I look, and let's look at Boston just for the hell of it. There's your hot bats. Those are the ones that are likely to get to Paxton if anybody's going to. Okay? So Arizona, Goldschmidt, Peralta, Ahmed, Marte, and Mathis if he starts. Easy enough. Angels, Upton, Kinsler, Maldonado if he starts. Simple, right? It doesn't have to be complicated, guys. Barnes, Puig, Bellinger, Muncy, Peterson. There you go. And what else do we say? Seattle, Spahn, Cruz, Segura, and if Vogelbach starts, which it doesn't look like he will with only 3 at-bats, but there's your 3-player list. So now you're going to go to the domination station. You're going to make sure you write these names down as you're doing the research, and then you're going to go into the domination station and adjust these guys' projections from 12 points to 13.5, or from 8 points to 9 or 10, something like that, to start bringing these guys to the top, so that when you go ahead and make 10 or 12 lineups, and you're only going to maybe pick the 2 or 3 you like best, you're going to pull out these names. Now, you're going to get some weird one-offs, and you're going to get some weird stuff in there that's occasionally going to pop in there. Like you might get the John Michael, or the John Murphy guy, whatever his name, John Michael. Got country music on my brain with John Michael Montgomery, I suppose. But if you're in Arizona, oh, he's not even starting. The John Ryan Murphy or whatever his name is. But say it pulls John Jay for you. Fine, he wasn't on our list. So what? Daniel Descalzo. So what? He wasn't on our list. Big deal. If it gave you a Peralta, even a Lamb, a Peralta, Descalzo, Ahmed, well, Peralta and Ahmed are on our list. If it throws Descalzo in there for you, do it. Do it. Now, I might not do a Jared Dyson. If he came up with like 7 points projected, I might drop him down to 5 points and make him whoosh right out of the optimizer. But what I'm trying to show you is different ways to get these lineups, so the players that you've identified as the best players on the slate, whoever they are. You want to stack Boston? Go do it. Pull those players to the front. Force that optimizer to pull them to the front. And then when you run 10 or 12 lineups, I do this every night. I run 15 to 20 lineups, and then I'm going to pick the best, say, 5 or 6 lineups that I like, and I'm going to go put them in. Some nights they miss a little bit. Some nights they really hit hard. Generally, they're pretty good, though. Generally, they're pretty close. The optimizer mixes the salaries for me really, really well. And then on top of that, I wind up with, a couple of lucky bats here or there and a couple of unlucky bats, and those make or break my night. And I can't do that if I hand build myself. It's not going to make me any better player. I take that off of my mind and I let the optimizer do the rest. And sometimes he'll throw in a really weird play. Like last night, I used a lot of Cabrera. It didn't work for me. Well, the optimizer wasn't suggesting that. I forced that into the optimizer, and it didn't really work for me. But there have been other nights where I've had a guy like a John Jay, and it forces him on me because he's a leadoff and he's pretty cheap and whatever. And the next thing you know, boom, the guy gets lucky and hits a home run, and my night is made. So the optimizer is going to do that for you on good nights and bad nights. You have to be comfortable with understanding that night to night, this is an aggravating game. But over the course of a week, 2 weeks, or a month, it really calms down. You'll really start to see the fact that you're either performing fairly well or not at all. And if you're not at all, that's what the coaching's for. You come to us and you say, over the last month, this has been happening or whatever, and then we can help you maybe correct that by talking back and forth one-on-one a little bit. That's why you would become a VIP and get access to these tools. But then when the things are going right, you don't really need us as much. You can play right along with us, and you know the names that I'm going to pull out because you're on it too. And the next thing you know, we're cruising right along, and we're just making $5, $6, $10 a night. If you leverage $800 a night, you're making $100, $200, $300 a night. Hell, you might be making $2,000, $3,000 a night. It all depends on what contests you play, which is another thing we help you with, and it also matters on how exactly what kind of chances you're taking and how those are working out for you at the point in time. So anyway, that's really quickly 2 slates. bust it up in under 30 minutes. I'm your buddy Chapadong. Follow the link in the description down there at the bottom of the comments. Like, subscribe to the channel. You'll get all of the videos that I put out on a daily basis. I've been doing them a little more regularly lately. They're a lot of fun to do, and I'm getting a lot of good feedback from you guys telling me that you're really enjoying them and you're really learning a lot as you get going and learning baseball. So let's keep this going for a little while. I'm going to probably take the weekend off, and I'll probably come back and see you on Monday. So have a great Friday. Hopefully this works out for you. I'll talk to the VIPs in Slack, and we will see you when we see you.